The mushroom I want you to grow is a predator. It hunts. Out in the wild, it lures tiny worms toward it with a smell that to them is irresistible. When one gets close, the fungus fires a paralyzing toxin from rows of tiny structures shaped like lollipops along its threads. The worm seizes up in under a minute. Then it grows straight down into the body and digests the worm alive from the inside out. Researchers have filmed the whole thing, and the lead scientist called it genuinely dramatic to watch. Now, here's what makes no sense at first. That same silent killer is also the most forgiving thing a beginner can grow at home in nothing fancier than a cardboard box from your recycling pile. Welcome to the Mushroom Archive. So let me get to what you are actually wondering. Can the brown box in your recycling right now be turned into a meal by a fungus that hunts for a living? The honest answer is yes. You can grow real, edible mushrooms in a plain cardboard box at home with no lab, no gear, and no science degree. People do it with a torn-up box and a handful of spawn. But there is a catch nobody warns beginners about, and getting one small thing wrong is what turns a promising box into a slimy green graveyard in about a week. Stay with me. First, what a mushroom even is, because this changes how the rest makes sense. A mushroom is not a plant. It does not grow from a seed, and it has no interest in your soil. Fungi are closer to us on the tree of life than to the lettuce in your fridge. They breathe oxygen the way we do, and rather than digesting food on the inside, they turn the whole thing inside out. They release enzymes onto their meal, break it apart out in the open, and drink it back in. The white thread you eventually see spreading through the box has a name. It is mycelium, a living digestive web that slowly eats the cardboard one fiber at a time. Which is also why that worm hunting trick exists at all. Oyster mushrooms in the wild live inside dead, rotting wood, and dead wood is loaded with cellulose, but nearly empty of nitrogen, the stuff every living thing needs for protein. So it evolved a second job. When it runs short on nitrogen, it turns carnivore and pulls it straight out of living animals. Hold on to that, because it explains a few things about your box later. Now, why cardboard works. Cardboard is basically wood that has already been chewed up for you. It is made of cellulose, the exact material these fungi spend their lives tearing out of fallen logs. When the factory pulped that wood into paper, it did half the hard labor in advance. So to the right fungus, a brown box is not garbage. It is a soft, pre-digested log served on a plate. And the right fungus, by a mile, is the oyster. Here's the part that makes it nearly beginner-proof. Oyster mushrooms are almost greedy about claiming cellulose. They move so fast and eat so hungrily that they crowd out mold and bacteria before those competitors can settle in. That aggression is exactly why they forgive sloppy first attempts. The mycologist Paul Stamets has spent decades documenting how oyster fungi tear apart the cellulose and lignin in cardboard, work that also feeds how these mushrooms now break down waste and pollution. For us, it just means the easiest mushroom to grow is also one of the most capable on Earth. A quick word on names, because the oyster goes by something different almost everywhere. In Japan, it is hiratake, the flat mushroom. Its Latin name, pleurotus, comes from a Greek word for sideways ear, after the way the caps fan out from one edge. You'll run into pearl oysters, the soft gray classic, blue oysters that like cooler air, and pink oysters that look tropical and crave the warmth. Every one of them eats cardboard. Pick whatever fits your climate and move on. Let me walk you through it, because the steps are simple, but the order matters more than people think. Start with plain brown corrugated cardboard, the kind with the rippled layer in the middle. Now here is the tiny detail that changes everything. Skip anything glossy, heavily printed, waxed, or soaked in grease. Those shiny coatings and dense inks can carry chemicals you do not want anywhere near your food, and the wax seals out the moisture the fungus needs. Peel off every scrap of tape and every sticky label too. Then, tear it into strips small enough to layer into your box. Next, you soak it. Pour boiling water over the cardboard or sink it in very hot water and let it cool. This step is pasteurization, and it is worth knowing how that differs from sterilization. Sterilization kills everything in sight, which takes a pressure cooker and serious heat. Pasteurization only knocks the competition down far enough that your fast-moving oyster mycelium can win the race. You are not building a clean room, you are tilting the odds in your favor. Once it cools, drain it hard. And this is where most people accidentally ruin the whole box, so pay attention. The cardboard should be damp, like a wrung-out sponge, never dripping. Too much water sounds harmless, but it is a silent killer. Remember, mycelium breathes. Drown the cardboard and you flood all those tiny air channels and the fungus suffocates while the puddle at the bottom becomes a paradise for mold. That points to something nobody tells beginners. Most contamination is not really a cleanliness problem. It's a moisture and airflow problem wearing a cleanliness costume. Now you layer. Lay down some cardboard, scatter a little mushroom spawn, just grain or sawdust already laced with living mycelium, add more cardboard, more spawn, and keep stacking like a tiny lasagna. Always buy your spawn from a reputable supplier. Do not go foraging in the woods and improvise, because misidentifying a wild mushroom is a mistake you only get to make once. Then you wait. And the waiting is the real lesson here. Close the box loosely so it stays humid but can still breathe, and keep it out of direct sun at normal room temperature, mid-60s to mid-70s Fahrenheit. For days, nothing visible happens. This is the strange gift of growing mushrooms. Almost all the action is invisible, happening thread by thread inside the box while you go about your week. Then one morning, you peek in, and there it is, a spreading white fuzz, soft and clean-smelling, like the box grew a coat overnight. Give it 2 to 3 weeks, and the whole thing turns white. That white is the win. Here is another thing people get backward. Mushrooms do not fruit just because they are ready. They fruit because conditions change. Out in the wild, that thread network feels a drop in temperature and a rush of fresh air after rain and reads it as a warning that the wood is dying and it is time to throw out spores before the food runs out. You fake that same panic on purpose. Once the box is mostly white, you open it up, move it somewhere with a little indirect light, mist the air around it a couple of times a day, and let fresh air reach it. Light here is not food. It is one more signal that the open world is near. Tiny pins appear first, then swell into full clusters surprisingly fast, often within a week. Harvest right before the caps flatten all the way out and the edges start to curl upward while they are still gently domed. That is the peak for texture and flavor. Twist them off cleanly, and your box may even hand you a second, smaller flush after a short rest. Then you cook them. Always cook cultivated mushrooms. Never eat them raw because heat breaks down compounds that can upset your stomach and makes them easier to digest. A hot pan, a little fat, and patience until the edges go crisp and golden. That is honestly all of it. Now, the promise in our title, healing. This is the fun part, and also where the internet loses its mind, so let me be straight with you. Bite into a homegrown oyster and you are eating beta-glucans, fibers studied for supporting healthy cholesterol and a calmer immune response, plus ergothioneine, a strange antioxidant your body cannot build and has to scavenge from food. Some oysters even carry a natural cousin of the statin drugs doctors hand out, though the amount jumps around so wildly between studies that I would not count on it. Then there's lion's mane, the shaggy white one people stir into their coffee for their brain, called yamabushitake in Japan and monkey head mushroom in China. In early lab and animal work, its compounds appear to coax nerve cells into growing, which is where the brain hype was born. But catch the words I keep leaning on: studied for, may support. Early. These are foods that might quietly help, not magic pills. They will not erase a disease or flush out toxins, and they are no replacement for a real doctor. If you are pregnant, on medication, immune compromised, or prone to allergies, run it past a professional before you go all in. One last thing before you start. Lion's mane can technically creep across cardboard, but it really wants hardwood, so do not expect much from a box. And if you have a shady corner of yard, look up wine cap mushrooms, the garden giant, which grow outdoors in wood chips and straw with cardboard as a base, not in a box on a shelf. So, here's the honest truth. Cardboard is the training wheels of mushroom growing, and it will rarely beat straw or sawdust for raw yield, but for turning your recycling into actual food, and for finally grasping how this hidden kingdom, the one closer to us than to plants, really thinks, nothing comes close, and it costs you almost nothing. If this video was informative, then comment yes. That motivates us to produce more videos like this.